I still remember the exact moment I stopped feeling like a daughter and started feeling like a stranger in my own home. It was a quiet evening. Nothing felt unusual at first. The ceiling fan was spinning slowly above me, making that soft clicking sound it always made. I was sitting at the dining table, my books open, pretending to study. But really, I was just waiting for my parents to call me, waiting for them to explain, because that morning, I had checked my college savings account, and it was empty, not low, not reduced, empty. I didn't cry right away. That's the strange part. I just stared at the screen, refreshing it again and again, hoping it was some kind of mistake. Maybe the app was wrong. Maybe the bank made an error, but deep down, I already knew. When my dad finally came home, I watched him quietly from the kitchen doorway. He looked normal, calm, like nothing had happened. My mom was serving dinner like always. Plates, rice, warm food. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. I sat down across from them. My hands were cold, even though the food was hot in front of me, and then I asked, very softly, "Did you take my college money?" There was a pause, a long, heavy pause. My mom didn't look at me. She just adjusted the spoon in her hand. My dad sighed. Not angry. Not guilty. Just tired. "We'll talk about it," he said. Not no. Not what do you mean? Just, "We'll talk about it." That was the moment something inside me broke, because I realized they weren't going to deny it, they were going to explain it, and somehow that hurt even more. Later that night, I sat alone in my room, holding my phone in my hands. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't take a full breath. But there was one thing they didn't know, one small thing, something I had done without thinking it would ever matter. I had recorded everything, and they had no idea. That was the night I understood something very clearly. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to protect your future are the ones who quietly take it away, and you don't even see it coming until it's already gone. I am 16 years old, and until that day, I really believed my family was normal, not perfect. Just normal. We lived in a small house. Nothing fancy, but it was warm. The kind of place where the kitchen always smelled like tea in the evening, and where the sound of the front door opening meant someone was finally home. I shared a room with my thoughts more than anything else. I didn't have many things. Just my books, a small desk, and a window that looked out onto the street. I used to sit there at night and imagine my future. College was always part of that future, not just a dream, but a plan. My parents had been talking about it for years. Especially my mom. "We are saving for your education," she would say, gently brushing my hair back when I was younger. "You will go further than we ever did." And I believed her. I believed both of them. They even showed me the account once. I think I was around 14. My dad sat beside me, holding his phone, explaining everything like it was something important. "This is your college fund," he said. "We've been putting money here for years." I remember how proud he looked. I remember how safe I felt. From that day on, I worked even harder in school. Not because anyone forced me, but because I didn't want to waste what they were doing for me. I stayed up late studying. I skipped small things I wanted, like new clothes or outings with friends. I told myself, it's okay. This is for something bigger. And every now and then, I would check the account. Just quietly. Just to remind myself that my future was there, growing, waiting, But in our house, there was always another focus too, my older brother. He was 3 years older than me. Confident. Loud. The kind of person who filled the room without trying. My parents loved both of us. I know they did, but with him, it felt different. Everything around him was urgent. His needs came first. His problems were always bigger. His dreams were always more important, at least. That's how it felt to me. If he wanted something, the whole house seemed to move around that want. If I wanted something, I usually waited. Or stayed quiet. It wasn't something anyone said out loud. It was just understood, like an unspoken rule. Still, I didn't complain. I told myself, he's older. Maybe that's why. And most days, I was okay with that, until the car. It started as a small conversation. I remember hearing it one evening while I was in my room. My parents were in the living area, talking in low voices. He needs it, my mom said. It's expensive, my dad replied. He's starting his life. It will help him. I didn't think much of it at first. It sounded like one of those normal adult discussions, but over the next few weeks, the word car kept coming back. At dinner, on the phone, in quiet conversations that stopped when I walked in, my brother was excited. I could hear it in his voice. This will change everything, he said one day, smiling like the world was already his. I smiled back, but something inside me felt uneasy. I didn't know why. Maybe it was the way my parents looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. Maybe it was the way my mom avoided certain questions. Or maybe it was just a feeling I couldn't explain yet. Then one afternoon, my brother came home happier than I had ever seen him. They said yes. He told me, yes to what? I asked. The car. He laughed, like it was the best news in the world. I tried to laugh too. That's nice, I said, and I meant it. At least a little, because he was my brother, and I wanted him to be happy. But later that night, when everything was quiet, I found myself thinking about something I hadn't thought about in a while, my college fund, not in a worried way. Just a small thought, like checking on something you left behind, just to make sure it's still there. The next morning, I opened the app. I didn't expect anything to be wrong. I really didn't. But sometimes, the biggest changes in your life don't come with warnings. They come quietly, in silence, with a single number on a screen. That suddenly becomes 0, and in that moment, everything you believed in starts to feel uncertain. After I saw that 0, something inside me went very still, not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy in your chest. That whole day at school, I couldn't focus. My teacher was explaining something on the board, but the words didn't stay in my mind. They just passed through, like I wasn't really there. I kept thinking about that number, or the absence of it. I told myself there had to be a reason. A simple explanation. Maybe my parents moved the money to another account. Maybe they were planning something and just didn't tell me yet. Yes. That made sense. It had to, because the other possibility didn't feel real. When I got home, everything looked normal again. My mom was in the kitchen. The sound of dishes. The smell of food. The same soft routine I had known my whole life. You're home, she said, without turning around. Yes, I replied. I stood there for a moment, watching her, waiting for her to say something more. She didn't, so I went to my room. I sat on my bed and held my phone again. My fingers hovered over the screen. I almost checked the account again, even though I already knew what I would see. Instead, I opened the voice recorder app. I don't know why I did that. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was fear, or maybe it was a small part of me preparing for something I didn't fully understand yet. That evening at dinner, I asked the question, "Did you take my college money?" The moment stayed with me. The pause. The silence. For a moment, I wanted to ask again. To push. To demand answers, but I didn't. I just nodded, okay. At school, my friends talked about their plans. College applications. Dreams. Small worries about exams. I listened, smiling when I had to, but inside, I felt far away, like I was watching my own life from a distance. That evening, my brother called me into the driveway. "Come see," he said, excitement in his voice. And there it was, the car, shiny, new, parked like something important had finally arrived. He ran his hand over it proudly. "What do you think?" I forced a small smile. "It's nice." He laughed. "I knew you'd like it." I wanted to ask him something. I wanted to say, "Do you know where that money came from?" But I didn't, because I was afraid of the answer, or maybe I already knew it. That night, I listened to the recording again, not once, but many times. Each time, it felt more real, more permanent, more final, and slowly, a new feeling started to grow inside me, not anger, not even sadness, something quieter, something colder, understanding, the kind that changes the way you see people, the kind that makes you realize you were never really part of the decision, just part of the cost. And from that moment on, I stopped waiting for them to explain, because deep down, I already understood everything they hadn't said. The next few days passed slowly. Everything looked the same on the outside. But inside me, something had already changed. I stopped asking questions. I stopped expecting answers. Instead, I started watching, listening, not in an angry way, just quietly, like someone trying to understand a story that was never meant for them. At home, life continued as usual. My mom still called me for dinner. My dad still asked, "How was school?" And my brother, he was happier than ever. And for a moment, I wondered if he really believed that, or if he just didn't want to think about the truth. "It's nice," I said softly. And that was all. That night, I sat at my desk, my phone in front of me. The recording was still there, untouched, unshared, just waiting. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it, to forget everything, to go back to how things were before. But another part of me, the quiet, steady part, didn't let me, because this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about something deeper, something harder to name, trust. The next morning, something unexpected happened. My dad called me into the living room. "Sit down," he said. His voice wasn't angry. It was calm, almost too calm. My mom was already there, sitting beside him. Her hands were folded in her lap, her fingers moving slightly like she was nervous. I sat across from them. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my dad cleared his throat. "We should talk about the account," he said. Finally, I nodded, my hands resting quietly in my lap. He looked at me, then away, then back again. "We used the money," he said simply. No long explanation, no hesitation, just the truth. I felt my chest tighten, but I stayed still. "For your brother," he continued. "He needed support. This was the right time." The right time, I repeated those words silently in my mind. My mom glanced at me, her eyes soft. "We were going to tell you," she said. "We just didn't know how." I nodded again, still calm, still quiet. "And my college?" I asked gently. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. My dad leaned back slightly. "We will manage," he said. There are always options. Scholarships. Loans. You're smart. Smart, I almost smiled, because in that moment, it didn't feel like a compliment, it felt like a solution, like I was expected to fix what they had taken, and him? I asked, glancing toward the door. Will he help pay it back? There was a small pause. My dad's expression didn't change. He has his own responsibilities now, he said. We can't burden him. Burden him? I lowered my eyes for a moment, just a moment, then I looked up again, and that was when I realized something very clearly. They had already decided everything, before I even knew there was a decision to be made. My role was just to accept it. I took a slow breath. Okay, I said, just one word. My mom looked relieved. My dad nodded slightly, like the conversation had gone well, like everything was settled. But inside me, something was shifting, not breaking this time, not hurting, just settling into place. That evening, I went back to my room and closed the door gently. I sat on my bed and opened the recording again. I listened carefully, every word, every detail. Then, for the first time, I did something different. I made a copy, and saved it somewhere else, somewhere safe. My hands didn't shake this time, my heart didn't race. I just did it, because now, I understood. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, it wasn't a temporary problem, it was a choice, their choice, and now I had one too. The next day, I went to school like always, but instead of going straight home after classes, I stopped somewhere else, a small office near the school, quiet, simple, a place I had never thought I would need. I stood outside for a moment, looking at the door, then I took a breath and walked in. The woman at the desk looked up and smiled gently. Can I help you? She asked. I nodded. Yes, I said softly. I think I need advice. That was the moment everything started to change, not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, step by step, choice by choice, because for the first time, I wasn't waiting for my family to decide my future, I was beginning to think about it on my own, and they still didn't know. They didn't know about the recording, they didn't know about the copy. They didn't know that the quiet girl who said okay was no longer the same person, and soon, they would understand that some things, once taken, don't just disappear, they come back, in ways you never expect. The office was small, quiet, there was a soft ticking clock on the wall, and a window that let in gentle afternoon light. It felt calm. Almost too calm for the thoughts I was carrying inside me. The woman behind the desk spoke kindly. You can sit, she said. I nodded, and sat across from her, placing my hands in my lap. For a moment, I didn't know where to begin. How do you explain something like this? How do you put it into simple words without making it sound small? She waited patiently, and that made it easier. My parents used my college fund, I said finally. My voice was soft, steady. She didn't interrupt. They gave it to my brother, I added. There was a short silence. Then she asked gently, did they tell you before they did it? I shook my head. No. She nodded slowly, like she understood more than I had said. Do you have any proof of what happened? She asked. For a second, I hesitated, then I reached into my pocket and took out my phone. Yes, I said. I didn't play the recording out loud. I just held the phone in my hand, knowing it was there. She looked at me carefully. You did the right thing by coming here, she said. There are options, but we need to take this step by step. Step by step. I liked the sound of that. Not rushed, not forced, just careful. She explained things to me in simple words. About accounts. About rights. About how money saved in a child's name isn't always as protected as we think. but also how there are still ways to respond. I listened closely, every word mattered, because for the first time, someone wasn't deciding for me, someone was helping me understand. Before I left, she gave me a small list. Talk to a trusted adult, she said. Someone outside your immediate family. And keep everything documented. I nodded, I will. When I stepped outside, the air felt different, cooler, clearer, like I could finally breathe again. That evening, I didn't go straight home. I went to my grandmother's house. She lived only a few streets away, in a quiet place filled with old furniture and familiar smells. It was the kind of home where nothing changed too quickly. When she opened the door and saw me, her face softened. You came alone? She asked. I nodded, yes. She didn't ask too many questions. She just let me in. We sat together in the living room. She poured tea, the way she always did. Slowly and carefully, you look tired, she said. I stared at my hands. Something happened, I whispered, and then I told her, not everything at once, just piece by piece, the account, the conversation, the car, the silence. She listened without interrupting. Her face didn't show anger. Just sadness. When I finished, the room felt very quiet. Then she spoke. They should have told you, she said softly. I nodded. They said they'll figure something out, I added. She gave a small sigh. Sometimes people say that when they don't have a plan, she said. That stayed with me, because it felt true. I hesitated for a moment. Then I showed her the recording. I didn't play all of it. Just enough for her to understand. When it ended, she closed her eyes briefly, then she looked at me. You kept this? She asked. Yes. She nodded slowly. That was wise. Wise? No one had called me that before, not like this. That night, I stayed with her longer than usual. We didn't talk much after that. We just sat together, and somehow that felt enough. When I finally returned home, it was late. The house was quiet. The lights were dim. My parents were in the living room. They looked up when I entered. Where were you? My mom asked. At Grandma's, I replied. She nodded, but something in her expression changed. Maybe she sensed it. Maybe she felt that something was different. My dad spoke next. You should tell us when you go somewhere, he said. I looked at him calmly. I will, I said, then I paused. Just for a second. Next time. There was a small silence after that, not uncomfortable, just new. Over the next few days, things began to shift, slowly, quietly. My grandmother visited more often. She spoke to my parents in private. I don't know exactly what she said, but I could feel the change in the air. Less certainty, more tension. One evening, my dad called me again. This time, his voice was different. Sit down, he said. I sat across from him, just like before, but this time I wasn't nervous. He looked at me for a long moment, then he spoke. We may have made this decision too quickly, he said. I didn't respond right away. I just listened. We thought it was the best thing for the family, he continued. But we didn't think about how it would affect you. That was the closest thing to an apology I had heard. My mom looked at me, her eyes softer than before. We are trying to find a way to fix this, she said. Fix this? I nodded slowly. I understand, I replied, and I did, but understanding didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean everything was okay again. It just meant I saw things clearly now. That night, I went back to my room and sat by the window. The street outside was quiet, the same as always, but I wasn't the same, not anymore, because something important had changed inside me. I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't depending on promises. I wasn't assuming that everything would work out just because someone said it would. I was thinking, planning, protecting myself. in small, quiet ways, and for the first time in my life, I felt a different kind of strength. Not loud, not proud, just steady. Like something that would stay with me, no matter what happened next. In the weeks that followed, nothing changed all at once. There was no big moment, no sudden apology, no dramatic fix, just small things happening quietly, step by step. My parents spoke to me more carefully now, not the same way as before. There was a softness in their voices, but also a distance, like they weren't sure how close they were allowed to come anymore. And I think that distance didn't come from me alone, it came from what had happened. Some things, once broken, don't shatter loudly, they just shift, and never quite return to the same place. My brother still had the car, he still drove it every day. But something about his excitement had faded, not completely, just enough that I noticed. One evening, he stood near the driveway, looking at it in silence. I walked past him slowly. "It's still nice," I said. He nodded. "Yeah," he replied. Then, after a pause, he added quietly, "I didn't know about the money." I stopped. For a moment, I just stood there, looking at him, trying to understand if those words were enough, or if they came too late. "I believe you," I said softly, and I did. Because the truth was, this wasn't really his decision, it never was. Still, there was a space between us now, not anger, just something unspoken, and maybe that was enough. A few days later, my parents called me again. This time, all three of them sat together. The room felt different, heavier, but also more honest. My dad spoke first. "We've been talking," he said. I nodded. "We can't return everything right away," he continued. "But we've started a new plan. We will rebuild your fund." Rebuild, the word felt careful, like something fragile. My mom added, "And we will make sure you are part of every decision from now on." I listened quietly, then I asked, "Why now?" There was no anger in my voice, just a simple question. My dad looked at me for a long moment, then he said something I didn't expect. "Because we realized we didn't just take money," he said, "we took your trust." The room fell silent, and for the first time, those words felt real, not perfect, not enough to erase what happened, but honest, and sometimes honesty is where healing begins. I took a slow breath. "I'm still thinking," I said. "Not yes, not no, just the truth," because forgiveness isn't something that appears in a moment. It grows, slowly, quietly, just like everything else. That night, I sat by my window again, the same place, the same street, but a different feeling inside me. I thought about everything that had happened. The account, the silence, the recording, the choices, and I realized something important. This story wasn't just about what they did, it was also about what I learned. I learned that trust is not automatic, even in a family, it is built. And it can be broken. I learned that staying quiet doesn't always protect you. Sometimes, you have to speak, even if your voice is soft. And most of all, I learned that my future doesn't belong to anyone else, not completely. Not without my voice in it. The recording is still on my phone. I haven't used it, I haven't needed to, but I keep it, not as a weapon, not as a threat, just as a reminder of the moment I stopped being a child who trusted everything, and became someone who understands, someone who pays attention, someone who chooses. And maybe that's the quiet lesson in all of this. Sometimes, life doesn't take everything from you. Sometimes, it gives you something instead, a clearer view, a stronger voice, a steadier heart. The account, the silence, the recording, the choices, and I realized something important. This story wasn't just about what they did, it was also about what I learned. I learned that trust is not automatic, even in a family, it is built. And it can be broken. I learned that staying quiet doesn't always protect you. Sometimes, you have to speak. Even if your voice is soft, and most of all, I learned that my future doesn't belong to anyone else. Not completely, not without my voice in it. The recording is still on my phone. I haven't used it, I haven't needed to, but I keep it, not as a weapon, not as a threat, just as a reminder of the moment I stopped being a child who trusted everything and became someone who understands, someone who pays attention, someone who chooses, and maybe that's the quiet lesson in all of this. Sometimes, life doesn't take everything from you. Sometimes, it gives you something instead, a clearer view, a stronger voice, a steadier heart, and the understanding that even when something is taken away, you can still rebuild, not exactly the same, but stronger, more honest, more yours. And as I sit here now, watching the soft light fade outside my window, I don't feel empty anymore. I don't feel lost, I feel awake, and somehow, that feels like the beginning of something new. And if this story stayed with you, even a little, if you felt that quiet pain, or that small strength growing inside, then you're not alone. There are many stories like this, soft, real, unspoken, stories that remind us who we are and who we can become. For more calm, emotional stories like this, you can listen again, anytime, on Gilded Tragedies. Just sit back, breathe, and let the stories find you.